Yo guys, what up? Nick Browen here. Today I'm giving you a long awaited video that I wanted to do for a while now, and that is a Ruby discussion. I have not done one of these in a very long time. Not very long time. I mean, it's been a couple of months. I believe the last Ruby discussion I made was right before the Vol.5 trailer dropped, or it was right after. One of the two, so it's been a couple months. And the reason why, I initially was gonna make one after the first episode, but there was not really a massive, but there was a decent amount of information drops. There was also chapter 2 that kind of just had me at a mindfuck, really, because it's something I would expect Adam to do, but I just didn't see it coming, and I was kind of at a loss. Then chapter 3, it was like, we got lots of insight into Ozpin, so I'm like, dude, if this is gonna continue, these massive info dumps and shit going down that I didn't anticipate would happen this soon, I'm just gonna wait it out until the middle of the season, or the middle of this volume. And I did that. Unfortunately, I was gonna do it last week, but phone issues screwed me over, so I wasn't able to, but now I can. So I'm gonna start off with all the positive things, because who wants to start off very negative? There are negative things, primarily 2 negative things. However, other than that, let's get into the positives. The positives from this volume we got so far is, aside from the repetitive nature of it, we did get massive info dumps on the maidens and of Ozpin. That's just so far. Who knows? Chapter 9 and onward could be even more info dumps. But we learned that we learned more about the maidens. We learned more about Ozpin. We learned specifically where Adam's mind is at. And it was very much just kind of riding off of Volume 4, which I can enjoy. I can appreciate that, because Volume 4 kind of cut back and took a step back and kind of wanted to assess the situation and kind of just I guess slow things down and take more of a narrative, more story approach, rather than an action-packed, holy shit, what's going on, what the hell moment, kind of path. They just wanted to take a step back and talk about the actual story and give us something, which they did do, and they did focus on action and whatnot, and they did, give us Ren and Ora's story. But I'm talking about in terms of the overarching story, chapter 8 and all that, it was very great. So it was very good to have these info dumps, these side stories, and just take a deep breath and a step back. So I enjoyed that they're still kind of writing that out, so we can get the story and then everything making sense when the action comes into when the main conflict comes to pass and all that. On top of that, let's talk about some of the characters. The 3 characters I'm probably the most happy with at the moment is Ruby, Oscar and Ozpin, and Adam. And here's why. Right now, from what I have not seen chapter 9, I've only seen up until chapter 8. Adam, because we know where his mind is specifically at now. At first, we can only really speculate where his mind is at, but now, within Volume 5, Chapter 2, him saying, the humans shouldn't just fear the Faunus, they should serve the Faunus, that specifically told us where his mind is at. He thinks of humans as lesser creatures. And obviously, we probably could have picked that up, and I think many people did, but I was just waiting for him to utter the words, of where his mind is at. So I'm very happy that he told us specifically himself where his mind is at. On top of that, depending on how his character is done with his backstory, he could be what I've always said, the best Ruby villain so far. Ruby. Here's Ruby, man. The reason why Ruby is probably one of my favorite characters in Volume 5 at the moment, it is because of one specific scene, I think in Chapter 5. Chapter 5 of Volume 5. I think it was that chapter where we actually got to hear her specifically say Penny and Pyrrha's death is bothering her and that it hurts her inside, and it was a very emotional scene, and it was a very kind of redefining scene for they're trying to redefine Ruby in a way, because Ruby's always sort of been this, she still is, but she's always been this happy-go-lucky character, and it's always been this character that has had a smile on their face and been happy-go-lucky and very chipper. But when we had that scene, it showed that she has changed. She has experienced something that is very, very dark and very, very just wrong in every sense of the word. And it showed that this has affected her a great deal. Volume 4, we got hints at it. But here we actually got to hear her say it and address it. And we just got characterization. And that's what I enjoyed. We actually got to hear her say everything and how it affected her. It was a great scene, and it was a great moment for Ruby in general. Not the Ruby as in RWBY, but Ruby as in the character Ruby. It was a great moment for her character. And finally, Oscar and Ozpin. Whew. The reason why I separate these two names and don't say just Ozpin is because, technically speaking, they are different people. They really are. However, I group them in the same category because they are in some ways very similar. So there's that. And the reason why he's on this list is because, one, we got confirmation that he is in fact the wizard, and I mean it was pretty obvious that he was the old wizard. However, getting actual confirmation is rather enjoyable, not to mention insightful. You know, all we had was speculation, even though it was painfully obvious. We could still only speculate because in canon it wasn't, you know, confirmed, and now it is. On top of that, what was it, Chapter 3, we were able to, you know, finally understand what this bond between him and Oscar is. At first, I think many people thought this, I could be mistaken, but at first, I thought that was his semblance, able to enter into the body and the mind of someone else. But I was wrong. It was the curse bestowed upon him by the gods for not being able to defeat Salem in the past. So that gave us massive insight into his character and kind of who he is in a certain aspect. On top of that, he is still just a very secretive character, and a character that I am very skeptical about. Ever since Volume 3, especially towards the end, I've been skeptical about him. So, and many people might say, well, on top of that, he has a great atmosphere about him, and he can go in so many directions. He is just a character that I'm very interested to see in how everything will play out. Probably up there with Adam, because I want to know how all that's going to go down. The same is true for Oscar and Ozpin. Now, let's talk about my favorite episodes. My favorite episodes have to be Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and pretty much Chapter 8. And here's my reasons. Chapter 1, we got to know more about the maidens. Chapter 1, we got to know what their specific role is and what they do. Chapter 2, we got Weiss action. On top of that, we got to see where Adam's mind at is. and, see him, be his usual edgelord self, yet still retaining some badassery to him. Like I said, the only thing right now that needs to happen for Adam, whether in this volume or the next or whenever, is his backstory. We need to know specifically what happened to him to get him to this point and what specifically motivates him. We need this. But primarily because of the battle with Weiss on the ship and the Adam scene at the end. On top of that, we got to meet a very brief but cool scene with Sienna Khan. So, yeah. And finally, Chapter 8, because I'm going to compare it to, I think it was Chapter 6 in Volume 2. We had a sit-down between my most hated character, Yang, and Weiss, one of my most loved characters. Anyways, it was very reminiscent of the talk Yang and Blake had. Weiss was trying to explain to Yang that Blake had her own reasons for, going off on her own, doing what she did, and that she had her own demons to fight, and she just felt that that was the necessary path to take on her own. So, I quite enjoyed that discussion and emotional bond between Weiss and Yang. I can forgive Yang a bit, but it doesn't make her completely free of the complete train wreck that she is at the moment. Now, on to the negatives. There's only 2 specific negatives, but other than that, that's it. So let's get into this. And I'm just going to get it out of the way because I've been bitching about it for so long and I just want to get it out of the way. Yang's character is pissing me off so much this volume. And here's why. She has proved time after time again in this volume that she has not learned anything from the fall of Beacon. She's still easily tempered, easily, angered, which is what got her arm cut off in the first place. She didn't think things through when she was trying to defend Blake. She didn't think that she was up against a superior opponent, so instead she let her anger control her, and the result was her arm getting chopped off. She has proved that she did not take Ty's advice of thinking things through and of keeping a level head. She has continuously defied all growth as a character at the moment. Her character is still redeemable, but she has not grown, she has not changed one bit. The only thing that has changed with her character, which I will give her credit for, is that her fighting style has changed. She is more martial artsy, I suppose, instead of more boxerish. With that being said, that's the only thing she has changed. Other than that, she's still not level-headed, she doesn't think things through, she did not listen to Ty's advice, and she did not learn from her mistakes. On top of that, especially in Volume 8, she proved that she is childish and self-centered. She targeted Blake as the enemy because, what, you didn't feel, included, that she didn't trust you enough to, let you in? Hate to break it to you, Yang, but Blake is going through something too. She is going through some shit. And she felt the best way to do that was to go back to her hometown to clear her head and talk to her family. You are being so self-centered, you are denying the fact that Blake has her own demons. Stop it. On top of that, wasn't her motive to hear her mom out and to get the answers from her mom? So, there is an argument about what I'm going to say. However, I'm going to say my thoughts first. If I was in Yang's position, I would want to get everything I could out of my own mom. Especially if one of my reasons for becoming a huntress in the first place was to find my mom. and was to get answers from my mom. What did Yang do when she got to her mom? Oh right, completely blew her off and did not get any of the answers she originally wanted to get from her mom. I can understand her being concerned for her sister. However, when your motive is to get something out of your mom, that is your motive. She had the perfect opportunity and she didn't take it. It pissed me off. On top of that, her completely writing her mom off, too, I think was out of the question. I think it was downright stupid. Here's why. It's because she wanted answers from her mom, but on top of that, technically speaking, her mom did tell her the truth. Did she manipulate some things to try and get Yang over to her side? Of course she did. Raven has not proven to be the most great of characters. But technically speaking, she told her the truth. And I don't know why Yang just cannot keep a level head and think things through and take things step by step instead of getting pissed off. And I don't know, man. It's like she didn't learn a damn thing from Volume 3. Now, getting off of Yang and my hatred for her character at the moment, the repetitive nature of everything that's being said from Volume 6 up until this point. I think it was Chapter 6 up until this point. We have repeated the same things. Raven said, you want to know the truth about Ozpin and all of that? We got pretty much a watered down version of what we already know. And I don't know, it's just been repeating the same crap we know and just been watering it all down step by step. And it's just really annoying. It's like, I hate to say this to Rooster Teeth because I love Rooster Teeth and I love Ruby, but it makes me feel like you don't respect the fact that we already know all of this. We get all of this. And I get it, I get it. You need to make sure the other characters also know what's going on instead of just Ruby and them. I get it. But when the conversation suddenly shifts into something else that we already know, come on. It's just repeating the same stuff we knew from Volume 4 or the same stuff we got very early on in this volume. Come on. I mean, that's really my main quarrels with this volume thus far. It's the fact that Yang's character is a mess, she hasn't learned anything, and the repetitive nature of the exposition and all of that. I can give a little bit of leeway to Chapter 7, and that is because they were reminiscing Team Ranger and, Team Juniper and Team Ruby have been separated from each other from a very, long time. So I can forgive them, reminiscing about, the fight that they had at the end of the volume, Weiss's little stunt she pulled at the party and all that. I can forgive that. They were catching up, they were telling each other about their adventures thus far. I can forgive that. But other than that, there is no reason for all of the dialogue to be so repetitive and just watered down crap of what we already know. But, you guys, all that being said, I think the goods outweigh the negatives. And I'm enjoying this volume thus far. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm not saying it's perfect. Like I said, those negatives are still there. But it is still great nonetheless. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I am enjoying the direction and where it's going. And I just cannot wait for what happens next. It's going to be awesome no matter what it is. So, yeah. And I'm going to ask you guys now, because I want your opinions. I want your thoughts. I want your comments. What is your favorite moments from Volume 5? And what is your most hated moments of Volume 5? My most hated moment is probably Yang in its entirety. And my favorite moments is Adam is Oscar and Ozpin and Ruby and, you know, all the great stuff we learned thus far, and all the new stuff, all the confirmations we got. I'm enjoying it all, and I hope you guys all are too. And please do not take this as me beating down on Ying's character when I went over her. It's just frustrating to see a character I want to be on their side. I just can't be on her side right now. It's just, she's a mess. She's all over the place. She's being a child and self-centered. She's only thinking about herself. And like I said, I get it. She risked her life for Blake, and she probably would want that mutual respect and trust. But Blake has things to deal with too. Open your mind, Yang. Come on, girl. But guys, with that being said, if you like this video, rate it 1 through 10. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Do all that fun crap. And as always, this is your boy, Nick Brawin, out with the Yang.